Hey guys, so I'm home from the crazy farm, which is good. I got because bunch of bunch of things have been great. I got my cat back, so you might hear him meow meowing. Well, he was always here. He was so beside himself when I first came back because it was kind of like like when people have a cat and their cat runs away and they have given up all hope and then the cat reappears after a few weeks and the cat is like so happy. It was like that because hold on, let me make sure this is still recording. Okay, I think it is. Okay, I just got a MP3 player. But anyway, the cat, like, I think he had given up all hope that I would come back. And so then when I did come back, he was so happy. But he's also, like, been stressed out. But he'll be okay. His little assistive speech devices have been on the fritz. But fortunately, the company is sending us new ones because I didn't even know they were still under warranty. So that's great. They can send us new buttons. Kitten has been very serious about getting his buttons replaced. So no problem. So anyway, I'm back and I don't have to use those stupid hot packs anymore that were like scratchy and too small and didn't last very long. I got my UU bottle. I guess a UU bottle is like the latest evolution of a hot water bottle, and it is probably the best thing ever. Not a sponsor because why would I have a sponsor? But I love my UU bottle. So things are pretty good. Now listen, I will say, okay, you know, someone of my one of my little friends at the Crazy Farm suggested that I could start a podcast, and I was like, wow, that's a great idea because I am very long-winded and verbose. So my podcast. So I ordered a little tiny cheap MP3 player from Jeff Bezos because previously the barrier would have been like my phone only has so much memory and then sometimes it'll stop recording, but this thing should work. So we'll see. But anyway, so I'm a little recorder doing my podcast. So let me tell you about my day, okay? So I had an appointment at well, it was at 11, but they want you to come 15 minutes early, so it was at 10:45. Now, fun fact, so I have an insurance company that provides medical transport, which is great because there's literally no other, like you need that. So, um, so I was getting that. Now, I will have to kind of give you some background on how that works. So you've got the overall insurance company, and then they subcontract to um, different organizations in different parts of the state um, that are responsible for medical transportation in their section of the state. Um, where I live, that is called MART. But MART then subcontracts to a whole bunch of people, like a lot of different individual vendors. And a vendor, to be a vendor, like most of these are people who basically um, desperately need some sort of income and do not qualify for Uber and Lyft. Okay, so generally the vehicle that you're going to get for medical transportation is going to be, you know, barely passed inspection sort of thing. Sometimes the drivers are very nice, but often they do have like sour personalities and sometimes they don't show up, right? Plus, Mart, not even the vendor's fault. Mart frequently does not allocate enough time to get hi kitten. I don't know if you can hear me on. Frequently, Mart does not allocate enough time to get to your destination with traffic. So there have been times when I was late. So what I do, since I have extensive experience with these people, I mean, the medical transportation people, I just set my appointment time to literally 1 hour before it's supposed to be, okay? So I was gonna show up 10:45, so I put 9:45 as the ride time. So they calculated that I should be picked up at 8:45. Now here's the thing though. People who work for Mart are not making a lot of money. So why would anybody work for them? Well, usually because it takes money to get money and they don't qualify for Uber Lyft. Generally because they're very poor. So like 99% of people, you kind of have to go in with the assumption that this person speaks very little or no English. And it's just an ongoing problem, right? Because some of the rideshare, well, not rideshare, but like, medical transportation people are lovely and really want to get you to your appointment on time. But English is, tricky. So, my person, I get a phone call at 8:15 and they're like, "Your ride is here." Now, usually my ride, it was scheduled for 8:45. So they show up at 8:15, "Your ride is here." And when they say that, I can kind of tell that like they know the phrase "your ride is here." They don't know any other. That's all they have, right? So I'm just like, so this is the Achilles heel, right? It's because they're not being allocated enough time to get where they need to go in time to get to the appointment. So their plan is show up early, give it more time, which makes sense. The Achilles heel in the system is that they are not able to reach out and say, "Hey, I know your pickup time is supposed to be 8:45. I'm wondering if you can do more like 8:15. I'm on my way out there right now." You know, they can't do that. So the lack of communication is a problem, which um, the ESL teacher in me is like, this is why there needs to be free and available adult education so people can learn English, because virtually everybody wants to learn English. I can tell you that for free. So anyway, a lot of people don't speak it generally because they don't have the time or resources to be able to learn, not because they don't want to. But anyway, all that aside. So I get a phone call, "Your ride is here." Well, it's 8:15. So they keep calling like, "Your ride is here." I'm trying to say like, "Listen, I didn't know you were coming at this point, like at this time," right? So I get out there at like 8:30. And so I go out there and I'm trying to, I see the driver, and it's the driver, and because it is, it's medical transport, but it's free through insurance, right? So it's not like you're going to get a private ride, right? So it's me and the driver and my co-passenger in the back. Um, so I say to the driver like, "Hey, in the future, if you are coming early, just call me and tell me so I know that you are coming early, okay?" Or I was trying to somehow be able to put this in more accessible language. It wasn't working. So she looks at me, she's like, "Oh no, oh, hold on." So she picks up her phone, she calls, I guess, her boss or somebody she knows, holds the phone to me. Well, so she says to her boss, in Spanish, "Hey, like, can you help me out? I don't know what the rider is saying," because, like, I guess she actually genuinely spoke absolutely no English at all. So the person through the organization interprets for her, and she understands what's being said. So she hangs up. This took 2 seconds, and I'm like, "Espanol?" Because I actually kind of speak Spanish, which there's no possible way this person would have ever guessed that generally, because I don't look like I would speak Spanish, okay? Like, I've got blonde hair. I think my eyes are green. People say they're blue. Basically German and Scottish descent. Like, when I'm working at the middle school, the kids, I don't know, like, want to, like, try to guess, like, where I'm from, which, I mean, it's fine. It's harmless. Um, but they usually guess Russian, right? So anyway, nobody's guessing Hispanic. That's all I'm saying. So she didn't know I spoke Spanish. But I just say to her in Spanish, "Hey, just so and she's like so happy because, like, I don't know, people appreciate when you make an effort. So she's so happy. We're chatting it up. And then I look over to the co-passenger in the back. He's so impressed, okay? Because I guess he's Dominican, but he didn't really get to learn Spanish. So I'm like, again, the ESL teacher, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I wish that they had found out sooner that the most number one important thing you want to do with a kid is make sure they speak the ancestral language for 10,000 million reasons I don't have time to go into, but it's just really good if you are able to speak multiple languages." So if you have the option, that's great. So anyway, but I guess he didn't speak Spanish. He wished he spoke Spanish. It was this whole kind of identity thing. So we're driving along. Now, about 10% of the way to my destination, he gets dropped off at his appointment, which was at a different place. And then the driver keeps driving. So 90% of the ride, I would say, it's me and the driver. We get where we're going. I get off. I go to my appointment, right? So then I get picked up. And the new driver, I hop in the car. Okay, it's a different driver. Same vendor, different driver. And I hop in the car, and this dude also speaks Spanish. Generally, the vendors are organized by first language. So there was like the Ukrainian company where they all speak Ukrainian. There's people from different language backgrounds in like sub-Saharan Africa where they speak, which makes sense, logistically. But anyway, fortunately, this was the Spanish group, which is great because I can access Spanish, right? So that's great for me. So, um, but I didn't have any reason to speak to him in Spanish, so I hop in the car. I'm trying to be polite because I don't want to just assume the guy doesn't speak English, right? You want to, I don't know, like I feel like it's offensive to just speak Spanish to somebody when it's like I didn't give him a chance to speak English. I don't want to be like condescending. So anyway, I hop in the car. The dude's on the phone, okay? Well, guess what? I immediately figure out based on his conversation that he is having a terrible day. He's stressed out. I mean, poverty sucks, right? I mean, he had to have been documented just because, like, otherwise there's no way he would have been able to have the job that he had. So, just in case any ICE agents or anything listening, of course he was documented. Okay, don't worry. But he was having a horrible day, right? And so I guess road rage in Massachusetts doesn't really discriminate, okay? So the dude, there's a whole bunch of like other drivers that he doesn't like, so he's speaking Spanish, right? But he doesn't know that I understand. And so he's, fucking bitch, I hope she dies. He's stressed out. Now, he didn't say that about me, he's saying about other drivers. He's not hurting anybody. He's just stressed out of his mind and kind of sharing the deepest things of his soul with his interlocutor in Spanish, okay? So no problems, okay? So 90% of the way home, we're in the parking lot to the same place where my little friend from the ride there had been dropped off. I'm not even thinking in my brain about what's about to happen, okay? Because I'm thinking, oh man, now that I know much more about this guy's life than he probably thinks I should, all I have to do is just not tell him I speak Spanish, and it will not be awkward at all, okay? Well, you can probably know what's going to happen next, okay? So, we're in the parking lot for a while. He's cussing and swearing at all the other drivers, blah, 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 blah. Well, doesn't the same person come out of the place, right? So I didn't realize it's gonna be the same guy, but it's the same guy. He's a very nice guy. This guy is the same. He's the Dominican guy who doesn't speak Spanish. So we hop in the car, right? Driver's still talking on the phone. So I guess this reminds my new friend, about the Spanish thing. So we're chatting, and every few minutes he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm a veteran. Hey, how do you say veteran in Spanish?" He keeps asking me how to say things in Spanish, and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know." Well, he keeps asking over and over, like, how you say this in Spanish, frequently alluding to the fact that I speak Spanish, and I'm like, "Oh, good. How you're blowing my cover, man." So anyway, after a few minutes of this, the guy on the phone, he's just like, "Yeah, man, I gotta go. Call you back later." I mean, he's still speaking Spanish, right? But he's like, "Yes." So he like hangs up. I felt so bad. I was like mortified. I was like, "Listen, dude, I'm not. I don't know. Oh, poor guy. I can only imagine. Okay, but listen, that is like a thing. Like, don't just assume people don't speak your language, okay? Because that's not fair. I mean, anyway." But poor guy. Now, fortunately, I am a very nice person, and honestly, people have bad days. It doesn't matter. But it's just like, oh my god, poor dude. I mean, I guess it's probably better he found out with me than like somebody who was like malintentioned or something. But anyway, so that was weird. Okay, so I come home. Well, I come home, but I had to go to the Social Security office because these guys are famous for losing papers. There is no way to get papers to them without them losing them. I have tried faxing, they lose it. I have tried going to the Social Security office and leaving it in their Dropbox, they lose it. And so basically what you have to do is you have to go in, scan the touch screen, tell them you're dropping off paperwork, you come in, you say, I have all this paperwork, I need you to scan it and give me a copy that's stamped saying that you received it. And so I have to explain this a few times. Eventually the guy's like, oh, okay. So he's willing to do, people are, it's, it's been an interesting month for the government. Okay. So anyway, so the guy, eventually works out. And then I had to go to the dollar store, pick up some stuff, and then I get back. Now my neighbor downstairs had been very nice, and she, so it's Halloween. So she bought the candy, and then I was going to be the one to give out candy, which makes sense because I hate having to go on shopping trips. Well, I don't, but transportation's tricky. Um, but I love passing out candy. So I love Halloween, okay? Growing up, like my mother thought Halloween was devil worship, so it's the only holiday we didn't really celebrate. And so now it's kind of the only holiday that I like. Aside from like those fun holidays, like, May the 4th and like Pi Day and like my personal favorite, October 4th, which is 10/4, you know what I mean? Like, the cop shows and stuff, 10/4, Rampart. I invented that holiday and I think it's the best. But anyway, aside from those, I like Halloween, okay? It's spooky, and honestly, the thing that I most deeply like about it is it's all one day a year when it's normal to get to know the neighbors and their children. I think that's great. Now, COVID kind of killed the trick-or-treating scene, unfortunately, and now people are mostly trick-or-treating in churches, which there is no problem with that, except that you're still hanging out with the same people you always hang out with, you know what I mean? This is supposed to be get to know your neighbor day. But anyway, so I was excited. I was going to pass out candy right now. According to the weather app that I have, it's 52, feels like 48, okay? Now, I don't know. I guess Donald Trump fired all the meteorologists. I don't know. But it feels to me a lot colder than 48. So, I mean, a lot colder. So I'm out there with my coat. It's like gushing wind. And usually I'm pretty warm blooded, okay? So I'm freezing out there. We got a few kids at the beginning. It was supposed to be 6 to 8. I'm out there with my little, Halloween bucket full of candy. Trying to hold out for kids, and I had like two, maybe three groups of kids show up, grab some candy, and then I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I'm out here. Do I have to stay out here the full 2 hours? Especially since there's not even any kids. Now, some people might have made in their brain a cause and effect relationship. Like the reason there's no kids is that it's freezing. Well, I didn't do that, okay? Because in my brain, like the fact that there was no kids was just kind of a, and there's no kids to boot. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's freezing and there's no kids, you know. Anyway, so anyway, eventually I move inside with my little bucket, and so of Dum Dum Pops, which my lovely neighbor picked out. And so anyway, so I'm there waiting. Now somebody in the building had some kind of nurse, I'm not sure, I think visiting nurse or something. And so this lady, based on her accent, I would say probably from sub-Saharan Africa. Okay, so she comes downstairs and she sees that I'm trick or treating, but I've moved inside. So she strikes up a brief conversation. She's like, "Yeah, I know. Like, I wouldn't let my kids out there in the freezing cold and wind." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that explains why there's no kids. Maybe I can go upstairs and call the day." But it's always hard for me to figure out, like, you know, what is because my family, well, my mother was ancestrally German, or like, my whole family's kind of Northern European lineage, but my mother, I think, is kind of German, so, and it's hard to parse out the difference between that versus the fact that she's just batshit crazy, you know what I mean? But we are probably some of the least gentle people around. Now, I have tried very hard to change this, but there are so many things that just like don't occur to me, okay? I mean, half of Northern Europe is still leaving their kids to sleep outside in the freezing cold, okay? Because why not? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, okay? Now listen, my mother, okay, and honestly, I don't know. I've never been to Europe. I don't know if this is a German thing. I'm kind of finding out some of it maybe is, but I think we took it a little farther than probably most people. But anyway, so I was born in the late 1980s, so apparently I'm older than dirt now. I found that out. But anyway, so back in my day, we actually did have, like, they had, I guess, just invented, like, ouchless or ouch-free, like, injury treatment stuff. Now, I was a little kid, so I got a lot of injuries. Plus, I was usually unsupervised. Plus, it's not like mom was going to stop me from doing something dangerous. Like, what's the problem? Worst case scenario, you get seriously injured. Like, so then we'll just clean it up, you know? So, well, anyway, so so we had the like Auschwitz stuff, but not my mother. My mother wasn't for that. She only was willing to do pure rubbing alcohol, just pour it over the wound. It hurt like a mother, and her whole thing was, quote, "It hurts because it's working," which was kind of her entire philosophy on life. I mean, honestly. So anyway, um, yeah, so that's my family. So this is one of those things. I never know how much of it's just a cultural thing and how much of it is like we kind of took some cultural stuff and took it to an extreme level. And besides, it's been like a million generations. Like, I don't know. But anyway, so I guess we are, I guess, one of the least gentle ethnic groups, which, if anybody's wondering why white people slam car doors, I didn't even know this was a thing, okay? Because like white people are famous for, even if you have money to get a decent car, generally people don't because I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I never knew anybody who really super was big into cars, at least growing up. So, you've got your like shitter car, right? So you have to slam the door or the door won't close all the way. My parents were pathologically afraid. Again, they take things and go to an extreme. They were pathologically afraid that the door would be ajar and we'd be driving down the highway and the door would fly open and we would all die. Now, the way like aerodynamics works, I don't think that would really happen, but that was their general concern. So I would have to close the door like multiple times because my parents are mad. They're like, no, you have to close it really, really, really hard. And then I found out, like, I was like going through life and mostly surrounded by white people growing up, okay? Like, mom wanted to be Amish. We weren't Amish, okay? But she did move to Ohio, and immediately after we got there, eBay was new. And so she's buying all these little Amish, like, dolls and, like, cute little, like, house knickknacks and stuff because I don't know. And then I mean, I don't know. They're definitely leaning into the heritage thing there. But anyway, we're not Amish, okay? But I mostly was surrounded by like 100% Caucasian people, okay? Plus, I didn't get to go to school. So when I say surrounded by, what I mean is I knew like maybe 100 people total that weren't related to me. So all of them were white, except the adopted kid whose parents were white. So, um, so anyway, so then I go off into the world and I'm like, wow, XYZ group is very gentle. They don't slam their car doors. And then XYZ other group is gentle. And then XYZ other group is gentle. They don't think it's good for kids to be freezing. And then I was working in childcare and I found out that like normal people, like everybody except for us, like wants their babies to be warm and swaddled and blankets and stuff. And I'm like, but if they're freezing, isn't that like doing something good, like builds their immunity to cold and stuff? People are like, what? Anyway, so if I seem a little rough around the edges, listen, I'm trying so hard to be gentle, and in many ways, I would say I probably am, okay? But I apparently have not come all the way because it still did not dawn on me that the reason there were no trick-or-treaters is because it was freezing. I was like, is that a reason to keep your kids inside? Well, apparently, yes. Apparently, well, I don't know. I mean, I surveyed one person, but, yeah, I guess that's something that people do. So listen, hey, if you're also North American, it's like distant relatives of several generations ago were from Northern Europe. I don't know. Do you think of yourself as like, having to really work hard to find out how to be gentle? Or, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just me, like, I can think of a lot of things. My mother was just not a nurturing soul. Every time I took a bath by myself, because mom didn't believe in leaving the kid, like watching the kid in the bath, and every week I got dried off with the same towel. I don't think she ever washed it. But all I'm saying is every week it was cold and damp. I didn't know there was such a thing as a dry bath towel. I thought the towel was always supposed to be cold and damp. Well, I hated drying off after taking a shower because the towel was cold and damp, but I didn't know that there was any other way that it could be, you know? Now, honestly, looking back, yeah, I don't understand why it was even cold and damp. Like, did it not air out? Like, I don't know. It was also pretty. My mother had to have been less gentle than everybody else because I have spent most of my adult life in mental hospitals, and I don't think that's a common story even in Europe. And apparently, a lot of places they're doing socialism now. Like in Denmark, you can just join a commune and everybody's fine, and you live together and use your social supports. And we don't have that over here because it's like pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, which I hate that expression because just thinking in my brain about the etymology of the phrase, okay, it has to have been that it was originally meant tongue in cheek. Because if you pull on your bootstraps, you're not going to go up, you're gonna defy gravity. Worst case, you pull the bootstraps out of your boots. That's not how gravity works. You can't pull yourself up by your bootstraps unless your bootstraps are hanging from something higher up that you can then use a pulley or something out of your bootstraps, but that's not a real thing. So whoever coined the phrase had to have been thinking like, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps because that's not like a real thing, like they think they can do that, but anyway, clearly it's not, and my whole family doesn't believe in PTSD, but I mean, I guess that is convenient if you're the one who inflicted a whole shitload of PTSD. But anyway, so all that to say, I don't know, maybe we're famous for not being gentle. Although the guy driving the PT1 was not gentle, I'll tell you that for free. Oh my god, he was pissed at everybody. I guess except for the person he was talking to. But he hated all the other drivers. He hated everybody. And I'm like, yeah, sometimes that happens. Besides my BFF, like honestly, like one of the things that I most enjoy about my nameless friend, because it's the internet, is that I can just call her up and ask how how her daughter-in-law is doing and get like a 20-minute grammatically correct string of curse words. And like I'm not so good at letting it all out. I don't know because I'm not gentle, but I'm also not aggressive. I don't know what I am. But she does not hold back. Okay, so I thought it was kind of hilarious. Okay, this guy hated everybody. He's not out like running people over. Okay, he's just pissed. Okay, everybody has the right to that. That's the normal. And I was quietly in my brain kind of proud of myself. Like, oh wow, I can't believe I still understand Spanish. I haven't been using it forever, but I still know this guy's pissed. And yeah, my new little friend had to go and rat me out. I tried so hard to like, hey, let's not talk about that. I don't know Spanish. Why do you think I speak Spanish? Well, anyway, so yeah, but I'm gentle with the turtle and the cat. So maybe I'm not gentle with myself. No one was ever gentle with me because mom thought pain builds character, and then I grew up to be a masochist, and then I had to stop self-injuring because pain. Ugh. I mean, if you're in enough pain to be wanting to inflict more pain, then you're not inflicting pain, but you are suffering. And so, I'm like, I get it. It was a whole thing and I was struggling. Anyway, so that was my day. Funny stories from my day. So hopefully this will take off. I mean, listen, so, I, I could start off, like I'm scared to go to groups in the mental hospital because, like, when I was a kid, I had ADHD that didn't get diagnosed until my 30s. So I'm in Sunday school in the preschool class back at the cult. I was always in trouble, but I was trying so hard to be good, but it wasn't working. And everybody was so mad, and they didn't even know I was trying so hard. And they were not gentle, okay, because we were in a cult. So that was kind of an extreme. I mean, I guess like they were extremist Calvinists, which the way America got kind of cultural background that it did because the Puritans moved over here because they got kicked out of Europe, which was Christian at the time as well. But the pilgrims, they got kicked out basically for being that crazy that the other people there noticed. And so, and so then like that kind of went by the wayside. Okay, Nathaniel Hawthorne was always criticizing, some of the more extreme anti-happiness, extremist Calvinist type people. I'm reading that in high school. I didn't know that this wasn't a normal thing to be experiencing in 2004. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, wow, this guy's such a great commentator on, legitimate, current, modern issues. It seems like he's from the past, but he's great. Well, why? Because, like, those books that they don't have 3 points, they don't have 5 points, they've got 19 and a half points, and, not a lot of organization. And I guess the idea is nobody had anything to do. Well, I mean, they did because they had the Puritan work ethic, but like, people didn't mind reading a book, 19 disjointed points about something insane. So, like, when I was growing up, people would just like find one of those books, dust it off, and be like, wow, I wonder why nobody's reading this. But I don't know. I feel like the church, well, okay, so the church when I was in preschool was fucked, okay? Like, um, but Dad thinks it's probably fine because I didn't remember very much. I'm like, I was at the most neuroplastic part of my life. I'm in the preschool Sunday school, in the cult. You think you're traumatized for life because you voluntarily joined this group in your 20s, and you don't think maybe I was traumatized? A little bit. He's all pissed off, so I can't tell them I have PTSD, so they think genuinely that there's no diagnosis and we'll just never know. And I'm like, ugh. Anyway, so yeah, so Sunday school back then, and I had my little cousin, fortunately, who was also in Sunday school with me. I don't remember if he was in trouble a lot. I know he was fascinated with his belly button, but he was a little bit younger than me, so I was like, I don't understand the thrill, but I was like probably 3 and he was 2 or something. I don't know. So anyway, I'm like, well, I'm a big kid now. I'm not fascinated with my belly button, but yeah. So I thought there was something else I was going to talk about. I don't know. Yeah. So little cousin. Oh, listen. Okay, I remember. Okay, so little cousin and me were, in the cult together. Okay, but that was a tangent. So I had to pause for a second and think. Okay, so listen, I was just in the hospital for from well, I got out October 27. I went in like the end of September. Okay, so basically like not a calendar month, but definitely a long time. So, um, so I get out of the hospital. Now it's not like I can tell my mother that I was in the hospital. Why? Because every time she gets any kind of intel, okay, anytime she gets any kind of intel, she, pretty much consistently uses it against me. So, I couldn't tell her I was in there. Plus, she's got the ultimate martyr complex. Okay, so I'm in the hospital for weeks. Finally get out. Now, I was on the trauma unit because of trauma that, kind of seems like might have been inflicted by her. It's okay. You gotta move on with your life. And so I get out and listen, I was having a hard time financially because I wasn't able to work and I had to pay for the pet sitter and all this stuff. So I'm like, well, I have to write to my mother, okay? So I write to my parents. Now, my parents are famous that if I write to them desperately needing help, sometimes they help and sometimes they don't. But either way, you're pretty much guaranteed they're going to try to make me feel like shit, okay? So they can say, oh, we can give it to you this time, but it's so hard. You have no idea. We want to retire. Or they'll say, we can't do it. You have no idea how hard it is on us that you even asked. It's like, I don't know. I mean, honestly, like, the most upset I've ever seen my parents has been when I asked them for money that they couldn't provide because, or like, like, hey, I know you have savings accounts. Can you just help me out? Because otherwise, like, I'm going to be homeless and stuff. And they're just like viscerally in agony that this is happening. They don't care. Like, I mean, at the time I literally tried to unalive myself, I was in the ICU for several days. They didn't care at all. But if I ask them for money, they're devastated. Okay, so I don't know what's up with that. But yeah, so I had to ask him for money, okay, because I'm like, look, honestly, not like I'm keeping track, but like the whole reason, you know, I mean, the reason I'm not working full time isn't because I'm not smart, it's because I have PTSD that kind of they inflicted, and then, the fact that I was, in the hospital. I mean, the latest trauma isn't necessarily caused by them, but someone told me once trauma compounds like interest. Okay, so like basically, um, you start off in life, you get kicked out of a cult, or all by yourself. Everything you knew was wrong. I used to listen to the like Weird Al Yankovic song, "Everything You Know Is Wrong," because like that was exactly what my life was at that point. It's, oh my gosh. I just got kicked out of a cult. I didn't know it was a cult until I got kicked out. It took 2 years for me to even really do deconstruction after that. Like, okay, it was rough, okay? And then what are you supposed to do? You're in the world, okay? You've got no social supports, no money, no marketable skills, okay? I mean, I had gone to school and done pretty well, but then right before I finished grad school, I got like disowned by my family. I did graduate. I had extremely good grades, but like I was so deeply, you know, emotionally destroyed. Like I wasn't able to function as a human, so I wasn't. I ended up not really being able to hold down jobs, and it made it a lot harder to work toward long-term goals because every time I try, when I'm about to hit the goal, something awful happens. So there's no point. You reach the goal, but nothing really good happens. So anyway, so that was, whole thing. So anyway, mom kicked off the trauma, so I'm in the trauma unit forever. Um, they were able to help me, but it's like, and I was triggered by a thing that probably wouldn't have been so triggering if I hadn't grown up in trauma. And then I had to pay the pet sitter, I had to pay the turtle cleaner, tanker cleaner guy. The whole thing was very expensive. And so I write to my mother. I'm like, look, can I have $100? Okay. And so I don't know. All of a sudden she's being sweet. Okay. Now again, I can't tell her I was in the hospital because she'll use it against me. And besides, she's deeply emotionally distraught by the idea that I got diagnosed with PTSD because she thinks I got diagnosed with that on purpose in order to spite her because she's got a lot of issues. Okay. I mean, honestly, she's famous for, setting things on fire, leaving deceased pets in the freezer for decades. I mean, weird shit, okay? So she's not all something wired. I think she's a sociopath. Because, well, if you want to hear that story, okay, so listen. So my dad was, and okay, so what do I have to get back to? So my ADHD brain can't remember. Oh, I got out of the hospital. I had to write to mom for $100. Okay. But in the meantime, this is why there's a lot of reasons I think she's a sociopath. I mean, she was a self-declared pyromaniac, okay? So in the winter, this was her stupid fucking fireplace. And in the summer, it was her barbecue. But she wanted the flames to be leaping like 5 feet over the barbecue. She's not even like, like cooking food at that point. She's just playing with fire. And she's a self-declared pyromaniac. So that's like, eh. But anyway, I mean, she does seem to have an anxiety problem, but she also drinks like multiple pots of coffee a day. She finally got to the point where she had, like, last I heard, she had to drink coffee last thing before she went to bed, or she would wake up with a caffeine headache. But it might have been sleep apnea, I think. But she was like, yeah, I have to drink coffee last thing at night, or I wake up with a caffeine headache. She's drinking multiple pots of coffee, but I think it's like a machismo thing, like well, she can really hold her coffee. Like it's weird, but she can't hold her coffee because she's a nervous wreck all the time. Which that does seem to be different from the sociopathy thing, but then the weird like power and control and like bizarro glee in her eyes when she's setting shit on fire, or if something bad happens to somebody that she's declared an enemy, like When I was growing up, we had the superintendent, Denny Morrison. I don't think he ever did anything to hurt anybody, but mom wanted to homeschool, and this guy was running a school, so should have been fine. She's homeschooling. Anyway, she hated the man's guts. And I'm like, why do you hate the man's guts? And she's like, because he always shows up at events and shakes hands. That's all he does. He shakes hands. I'm like, that's anyway. So she hated him. So anytime something bad happened, she would just get this weird maniacal like cackle. And then the time she like blew past the school bus. Well, okay. Anyway, the the kid on the school bus was in a wheelchair, and I guess it was taking too long for the handicap ramp to go down, and so she blows past him, and then I guess it didn't occur to her in her brain that our house was literally two doors down. That's why she knew the kid was in a wheelchair, and that's why it was taking so long. But she didn't mow him over. She's like, well, I knew I wasn't going to run him over because I always see him go. It's still illegal. And then she was blown away. The cops showed up a month later, knock, knock, knock. Like, hey, did anybody blow past the school bus with a handicapped kid getting out of the bus? And mom's like, no. And so anyway, so she shows up at court in her like homeschool jumper thing, and she brings my father, who's a moron, okay. And so anyway, so she, I guess, convinces them that she's this sweet Midwestern homeschooling lady who like didn't qualify for the Amish, but anyway, she's trying to give off her Amish vibes or something. I don't know what she's doing. Anyway, so she got off, but she's not saying, "Oh, I'm so lucky the guy understood." That was scary. She's like relishing, like he gave me the lowest possible sentence. Oh my god. Well, she didn't get a sentence. She had to pay a fine or something. I don't know. She thought it was great. So so my dad was always reading books, okay? His parents were literature professors. His parents were actually great. So I don't know what happened. It's like he chose to go to a cult, and I don't even know. He made terrible choices. Anyway, but he liked to read, and besides, I mean, what's he gonna do all day? He definitely didn't want to talk to his kids. And, he would generally petition my mom for sex, and she would decline. And so dad thought this was our fault. And there's a lot of weird, I mean, he would always pretend he had ears and a tail, and I was bizarre. Anyway, so he read books a lot, okay? He was socially awkward, that's what he said. So anyway, so he's always reading his books, okay? And mom really didn't care what he did because his purpose was to make money, okay? And make her look like a sweet, wonderful Christian woman for putting up with the fact that her husband's a moron, which he is. That's why you don't marry a moron. But anyway, um, so anyway, dad would read books and mom really didn't care, okay? And like he gets fascinated by things and goes through his special interest lately. I'm not going to give him a diagnosis because there are people who have legitimate diagnoses and work hard and get better and learn proper social skills. So I'm not going to give it the dignity of saying he's got X, Y, and Z thing. Okay, you can probably picture some things that I definitely think might be going on, but it's not fair to the people who have the actual diagnosis who are working on themselves. And then you've got this guy who is comorbidly just an asshole, and he's an idiot, and it's like, well, he's got X, Y, and Z. I don't care, like, because everybody else goes to therapy for this stuff, okay? Anyway, so he would get like fascinated by one thing. Okay, so he would read his book, and he's always talking about his book. Mom didn't care, but she would give him just barely enough attention to keep him locked in. And so anyway, then one day he decides to read this book, The Sociopath Next Door. And so for whatever reason, Mom thought this book was fascinating. She read the book too, okay? Dad read the book, Mom read the book. She was fascinated. So then Mom starts going through her life telling my father everybody in his life is a sociopath, okay, including his boss, who, Dad worked for the Department of quote unquote defense, devising weapons that we are dropping on people in real unfortunate parts of the world. Every time something awful happens because the U.S. blows somebody up, yeah, guess who invented that thing? We keep inventing new ways of blowing people up, and some of that's legitimate, okay? But I can definitely tell you, my father wouldn't care whether it was or not. He would just believe whoever's giving him money because he never critically thinks about anything that's, working for him, okay? So, anyway, he's convinced it's all fine. And so, yeah, maybe his boss was, I don't know. But then mom decides that the pastor of our church was a sociopath. Now, that guy, he left when I was like an adolescent. Turned out he had a massive drinking problem, okay? Now, I looked him up years later, found his blog. He was very long-winded and verbose as well. But I'm reading his blog, and it is an absolute perfect description of an, like, substance abuse disorder, okay? The guy wasn't a sociopath. The guy had a drinking problem, and the guy was not able to admit that and get the help that he needed, probably because in our little microculture thing, okay, nobody believed in therapy because that's man's word. Anything involving any sort of research, man's word, you could only do quote unquote biblical counseling, which means no research at all. You're just doing what you think the Bible will tell you to do. Now, it doesn't matter that every time people try this, it seems to generally fail because also the Bible passages that they're picking aren't even God is love. You know what I mean? They're picking passages like, well, you just need to repent of your sin. So drinking alcohol is sin, so just stop it, which is not a great advice to someone with a drinking problem because they think they're going to stop it. That's the plan. They don't realize they can't. Um, anyway, so the guy was like, yeah, like the reason I took the job was because I thought I was going to stop drinking. I always thought I was going to stop drinking. And I'm like, this is a substance abuse disorder, okay? Like, was it handled appropriately? Maybe not. But I don't think anybody there was really malintentioned. I don't even think the pastor was malintentioned. I mean, he was quirky, okay? He had a few creepy issue things, but generally I don't think he was a bad person. But mom's telling dad that he's a sociopath because he has a drinking problem. Okay, so she's telling everybody has a. I don't know, mom. Thou dost protest too much. Okay, because anyway, why are you suddenly fascinated about the sociopathy thing, mom? And she claims she had a master's degree in biology, which I don't think she did. But I mean, there's a lot of reasons I really question whether she did. But anyway, she brought it up like every single day, her, master's degree in biology, but she was fascinated by sociopaths because she's like, humans exist by like helping each other, like a super social species, but she's like, but then there's the free riders who just like figure it out, and she thought this was great, and it's like, why does she think this is great? I don't know. She never came out and said she was a sociopath, but like just given the fact that I knew her extremely well and I mean, I was homeschooled in a small house with her, and it's not like she was interested in getting to know me, okay? So I knew her real well. Besides, she went crazy. She would beat us up, or she would, like not cook dinner. Well, now we're gonna starve, okay? So my job was to keep her emotionally regulated all the time. So I was pretty tuned in on everything about it. Anyway, I'm pretty sure she was a sociopath, okay? Just given everything that happened, and given that, like, if I had told her I was in the hospital, it's not like she would have been helpful, okay? This would have been, she's a martyr, or anytime I have any issue with her, she thinks it's an issue with God, and I'm like, this feels like a direct attempt to change the subject because me and God never had a problem, okay? Like, kind of view each other differently now. Like, one person in this book, like, Obligate Carnivore. It was supposed to be about vegan pets, but he went on a lot of tangents too. I thought it was a great book, but you can't have a vegan cat. But anyway, um, so he's like, yeah, I don't know, I like you, Jesus, but not like that. And but it, like honestly, like anyway, so I didn't feel like it was ever an issue, but anyway, so mom's convinced that I don't have a mental illness. I'm just bitter with God, and anyway, so, so that's mom. Okay, so I can't let her know I was in the hospital because every time she finds things out, she finds a way to screw me over even more and claim that something that I said made her feel like I was attacking her faith and all this stuff. Okay, so I'm out of the hospital. I was there for several weeks dealing with the latest fallout from PTSD. I'm already on disability because of things that happened because of PTSD. trauma's been compounding like interest, as they say. So like this kind of is the thing that kind of defines my adult life, which is part why it's so hard to make friends. Which I'm planning on blogging about again. But suffice it to say, you know, she kind of hurt me a lot. And so yeah, so I get out of the hospital, I ask for $100. She goes, let me find this exact email, okay? So it's like, it's one of those things where you have to know the person. Now, my parents have the same email address. Ostensibly, this is because they are madly in love. Definitely not because mom wants to be able to keep track of everything that my father does, okay? Not that at all. This is just only, um, because they're so in love, why would they even need to put their name at the end of their emails? But guess what? I know who's who, okay? So, where am I at? Okay, okay, sent this email. Okay, so I'm like, hey, can I borrow $100? Okay, I titled the email $100. Okay, because I don't know, with my family, it's like if I say anything else first, they think I'm just trying to sweet talk them, butter them up, which I am not because I'm not a manipulative bitch. But I mean, it's also like I'm negotiating with a terrorist over here. Okay, I don't have a lot of choices. I wanted a relationship. It was just not an option. So then they're like, well, why do you only talk to us when we're asking for money? I'm like, I don't know. It's the last 10,000 times I tried to get you to somehow communicate to me that you love me. You failed so abysmally, and then you were pissed off at me when. So anyway, because they're terrible people. Okay, that's why I only write to people in Europe. And it's not like I even want to have to ask for money. Okay, I would rather be making my own money. But anyway, you traumatized me. Made your bed, you can lie. So anyway, so they're like, so mom says, well, because I was gonna pay her back, she's like, we can simply give you $100. Well, fuck, thanks. That makes 6 figures, and I've been homeless. So yeah, thanks. So then she goes, do you have a birthday wish list? My birthday's okay. So I go, thank you so much. I should have been a diplomat. Okay, honestly, I would have been fucking amazing because I don't know who that weird person is in North Korea, but like I'm pretty sure I know someone with a similar personality type. Okay, so just saying, mom invented a cult just so she could kick me out of it. Okay, and then people are like, what cult? Well, first of all, the vast majority of cults don't have a name because no one's saying, hey, join our cult. Okay, it's the family. Mom's in charge. You know, I mean, we started out in the cult in, my original state that I grew up in. Okay, and then mom, I don't know, kind of took the idea and ran with it, started her own micro cult within the background of technically toxic religion, but very nice people. And so then she kicked me out. People were like, well, what's the name of the cult? Most of them don't have names. And then, honestly, okay, honestly, if I asked you, name the top 10 cults you can think of, how are you gonna, you can't think of 10 cults. You can't think of any cults. You don't know these guys. Nobody knows these guys, okay? Don't ask me what cult, okay? And then don't ask me, are you still in the cult? Because, no. If I'm calling it a cult, I'm obviously not, okay? So, anyway, what cult? Okay, anyway, you better be an anthropologist if you think you're gonna know every niche cult, okay? Grow up. So anyway, I should have been a diplomat because I didn't say any of that. Okay? I say, wow, mom, thanks for the fact that pretty much the main thing I've had to do with my life is make it so that I can live a quote unquote life worth living and not allow you to have ruined it. Like, I mean, you would have ruined your life if you could have. I'm choosing to take lemons and make lemonade and forgive. And, I had a nice moment, this morning during ketamine, like, hey, maybe the fact that, like, I'm very nice to my mother, even though she doesn't deserve it, as in not very nice, but at least I'm trying to be, like, I feel like if she needed something, I don't know. I'm not out here trying to get retaliation, I'll tell you that. But anyway, the fact that I do kind of let this go and hope she's okay, um, maybe that's something the universe will reward me for. Maybe karma is real. Maybe God is love, then love is God, and maybe there'll be I get very, philosophical. Anyway, but I wasn't on ketamine at the time that I got this email. But anyway, so all I'm saying is I should have been a diplomat. I would have been making a lot more money than $100. So I don't work for the UN, and that's that. So I said to my mom says, "Do you have a birthday wish list?" So I say this. I say, "Thank you so much." 2 exclamation points. And I can certainly make a birthday wish list if you're interested. Smiley face. Yeah, you know how I can make a birthday list? I just take that spreadsheet of shit that I really need but can't afford. Okay, I put food on this thing. Okay, so mom says, quote, now it's not like she signed it because she always forgets to put her name at the end because she's like, oh, put me and your dad or one. Yes, because it's a toxic relationship. And anyway, so she goes, we are very much interested in doing that. My most outstanding November memory is still your birth. Now the word still kind of throws that all off, right? So she goes, so it feels good to celebrate it. Smiley face. Still? What the fuck? My most outstanding November memory is still your birth. Oh, okay. What do you want me to think you're doing all day that's more interesting than that? You think every month you do something more interesting than the birth of your firstborn child? I don't think so, bitch. You don't do anything with your life. Most of my memories of you as when I was a kid, you were playing Free Cell on the computer. Okay, so yeah, you probably do remember my birth. And it is very nice of you to think of me once a year when I just spent all my time, like for the past several weeks, working on PTSD that you inflicted. You know, that's very nice of you to remember my birth once a year. 1/12 of the time I think about your birth is still your birth. Still. As though what? I did something that would have made you, because I definitely feel like I have handled this situation in the most gracious way possible. Yes, I started swearing. I didn't used to swear, okay? I don't swear at her. Very nice to her. And I'm pretty much nice to people who know her. I don't even say mean things to anybody she knows, as opposed to her. Her whole thing that she does with her life is start terrible rumors about people. But, try to let it go, make it a joke, not do anything, not retaliate. Why? Like, do I think God will punish me if I do? Of course not. But I choose to be a person who does not take revenge. And so I don't know if that's forgiveness, because forgiveness, again, is another thing that I will make a podcast about someday, okay? I will have this podcast thing. But anyway, most outstanding November memory is still your birth. Okay, so still after what? Because mom doesn't remember doing anything wrong. Okay, so clearly she thinks, I mean, she definitely thinks I did a lot of things wrong. So still, I'm not that old. Okay, so what is it that would still implies, if she had said my most outstanding memory is your birth, then it would be like, of course it is. But when you use the word still, it implies that, my most outstanding memory is your birth in spite of an unspecified thing. And so I'm like, what is the unspecified thing? I'm pretty sure that she has a huge martyr complex and she claims that I basically am the Antichrist and all this stuff. Well, guess what? I never did anything to hurt her. Okay. I thought about mailing a glitter card. I will say, I didn't do that. And I thought about mailing those prank cards off of Etsy. Those ones where it doesn't have a return address, right? Because none of them do. But then like you've taken the first step to conquer your porno problem by joining Porno Addicts Anonymous. Free information inside, or the one about the gay cruise with a whole bunch of inflatable sheep and stuff. Okay, I didn't send her the prank thing. I think about fun things. Okay, it wouldn't even really hurt her. Okay, but anyway, I don't take revenge. Okay, and considering the amount of pain that she has inflicted on me, considering the fact that I haven't been able to work full time, considering the fact that I didn't get a K through 12 education, considering all the lost years of like my life is over. Well, not my life is over. My life is not at all over, but my youth is over. And it's like I missed it. Like I didn't get to have a youth, and grieving that has been horrible, right? Because where was I as an adolescent? I was in solitary confinement. Okay, so I mean, I didn't even know I was funny until years later. Like people would act like I was funny, and I'm like, I don't understand. Am I funny? Like I had no idea. So I don't know if I'm being funny right now. I'm complaining about my mom, but anyway. So I feel like considering if a person, I mean, I think a person can ruin another person's life. I don't think mom was able to do that. Kind of a pinky in the brain scenario. She's always trying to take over the world, but she's not the brightest light. And my father is an idiot, but he's not the nicest person. So anyway, they're match made in a cult, and so um, so I mean, homeschooling your kid and intentionally trying to make sure the kid can never outperform you on anything, and just like the intense like psychological manipulation. Now, I think I had my grandmother who was there for me when I was a baby, and I think probably really helped. I think genetically I probably inherited a lot of stuff from her, just like, like I mean, she was Scottish, okay, so I don't know if that's different because I've never been to Europe, so I don't have any money, but she was a very gentle, sweet soul. And so maybe, but I mean, I definitely feel like tried very hard to, and I don't know that she did, but I think she's evil. Um, and I think considering everything that I went through, I think I've been extremely kind to her. And that was something that hit me today while I was communing with the divine, because my thing was like this. Honestly, maybe the fact that I've been putting out goodness and kindness, like, will come back, help me, like, maybe. So, anyway, just wanting to feel, I don't know. But, so yeah. So, so that was that. Um, but, so yeah, so I feel like considering everything, I think I've been very gentle with mom. So for her to say my most outstanding November memory is still with us, as though there's anything I did to say that's not true. Yeah. But anyway, so it's like, look, I was in the hospital forever. Finally got out of the hospital. Okay, I get out. I need $100. I reach out to mom. Mom's still like acting like she's the martyr, and then she wants to go and pretend like, you know, like she's going about, and so it's like I'm letting her send presents, okay, because I'm still and she owes me, and she's not able to have any emotional connection, so everything she does is sociopathic, so it's not like you can exploit somebody like that. So I don't know, it's tough because it is like, yeah, got out of the hospital, needed, and now she wants to send like $100 as though that solves, and some birthday presents as though that solves everything. Like the fact that I couldn't even tell it. So anyway, I don't know. It was supposed to be funny. It was supposed to be like, well, got out of the hospital and now she's sending me birthday presents and I completely make up for it. But yeah, I guess it's technically not funny. So anyway, I'm hoping this is recorded because otherwise I'll be sad. So I'm gonna check and see if it recorded, and if it did, I'll post it on my anonymous blog. Bye bye.